Hello, and welcome to the Equestrian Mums Club podcast. We're your hosts, Sophie Conway and Katie Allen-Clark, avid equestrians and recent first-time mums. Join us and a herd of other guests as we discuss the wild ride of parenthood and horse care together. Now it's time to take up the reins and walk on into our next episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Equestrian Mums Club podcast. Today we have another guest on the podcast. That is a friend of Sophie's, and this is my first time meeting her. Today we are going to be chatting a little bit more to irregular equestrian mum friends, and I'm really excited to see what today holds. So, Sophie, would you like to introduce our guest?
I would, yeah. So Cheryl is a friend of mine that we both met at an NCT class, actually, and we've stayed in touch because our babies are friends, sort of forced friends.
Otherwise we wouldn't be.
Otherwise we wouldn't be at all. Our babies get on, and also we obviously bond over our shared love of horses and all things equine and animals, and I really love Cheryl's cats. That is the only reason we've stayed friends.
I feel like she's saying everyone but you here. Is this like a...
We've been out and about all over basically Cotswolds and Berkshire and everywhere on little trips with the babies, and they love it. And part of the reason that we wanted to talk to Cheryl today, apart from obviously being interesting, funny and hilarious...
oh, there's the compliments now.
Is because you've been through so many ups and downs in all of your journeys. Horse journeys, baby journeys, pregnancy journeys, and with Theo as well.
Yes, it's true.
And I think that actually you are a bit of an inspiration. And I think that anybody that is going through the same thing could take a lot of strength from you. And so I think it's important that we celebrate people like you and hopefully help some people in the meantime.
Oh, thank you.
So can you give everyone a bit of an introduction to yourself? So name, where you are, your children, your baby, and your horses and your work.
Okay. Yep, so Cheryl Dollery. I live in Wiltshire. I have a 15-month-old nearly called Theo. He is my first and so far probably only child. And I have two horses currently, two Highland ponies. One is Kelty, she is 13 this year, and one is Mabel, she is 4.
And what do you do with them?
Mabel, I just try to keep her contained in her field.
Didn't you find her in the woods the other day? Yeah. And on the drive of that posh house up there.
Yeah, and out in the valley at the back. Yeah.
Oh, great. Love that for you. Yeah.
You can look at this pony and know that she escaped.
Yeah.
You can just see from her face.
Yeah. I think when she was a foal, actually, when I went up the field one day, I found her between our fence and then our neighbour's farm fencing, that like a really posh metal stuff. Yeah. And she was literally just stood between the two because there was only a small gap, and she just she couldn't turn around. She's just looking at me like, can I get out now? And that was when she was probably about 3 months old, and it's just
her.
Yeah,
you did, didn't you? Yeah,
and it's just carried on from there. So so her, I try to stop her having laminitis because she escapes onto any pastures new. And Kelty, who is the angel, I do dressage and showing with. Well, I try to do those things with them. I do try to show Mabel as well, but she decided she didn't really like it and didn't want to load now. So
don't talk about loading.
Do not talk to me about loading today.
Just for everybody's benefit, Katie has spent a couple of hours this morning trying to load her horse onto a horse box to take him to the vets.
He didn't want to play, guys. He really didn't want to play today. We had all the shapes, literally all of them. He's too big to play shapes now.
It's huge.
I just, to be honest, at one point I just gave up and cried in the box for a bit. Then cried all the way down the motorway when I had got him in. Cried when I got him out. The vet at Equine Hospital literally think I am like insane. They think I'm insane.
I don't think that they do. I think that they think all horse owners are insane. I don't think
I think that's pretty
I think
actually.
it's special.
I think that's true. We said that on the way over, isn't it? Didn't we?
Yeah.
We're so relatable because we're so insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Loading
back
aside.
to the Highlands.
Well, you feel slightly better by saying that. Well, how long were you trying to load from here?
About 2.5 hours this morning.
And I said that I capped that with 7 hours with a Highland, not mine, actually, although it could have been Mabel. Didn't want to load at the New Forest show, would go in, but then would shoot out backwards. And it took us so long, and it wasn't my horse, so I didn't really have a lot of control over this. But I was kind of like, can we just... Well, the woman was sort of... The owner was just sort of suggesting, maybe we leave him here for a night or something. And I was thinking, yes, that's
to roam free?
No, it was the New Forest show. I should have said that. It was the New Forest show. I
Let's just leave him with the herds on the New Forest.
To be honest, I wanted to.
I bet you did.
I thought about that today.
Yeah, just set them free.
But so we were going to bring him back. He would not go in. He would go in, then he'd shoot out backwards. He did this multiple times. She didn't want to sedate him because she was worried he was going to get laminitis. So we carried on and carried on. She was then going to maybe get a stable there, to which I was like, yes, then I can go home. Because it was my trailer and I was pulling it. So I couldn't just, I didn't want to leave her.
You couldn't desert her.
Well,
you could have done.
You could have. Yeah.
So after
7 hours.
After 7 hours, she finally decided. Oh, we did get fire and rescue there first of all to put a thing around his back to try to get him in, and he wasn't going in. Finally, they managed to persuade her to sedate the horse. So we then had the vet here, and then because she hadn't eaten since about 4 o'clock in the morning, she then passed out. So then we had the paramedic with us as well. So at this point, we finally managed to, with the fire and rescue's help, winch this horse in and then put the back up and take him home with, well, thankfully the paramedics let her go and they said it was all right, just look after her. And I'm like, now I have to look after her and the horse.
And mine.
Just look after her. I'm literally just trying to get a horse on a trailer for 7 hours.
So
But the irony being that I think that could have been me today.
Yeah, almost. Probably. Well, you could think it could have been you that needed a paramedic. Yeah.
I was apoplectic. Driving down the M4 on loudspeaker to Sophie, going, this is the worst day ever.
I just put the phone down on it because I was like, you're going to have an accident. I can't talk to you. Just go and calm down and drive. Concentrate on your driving.
What is life?
Oh, God, honestly, horses, we are all a little bit done with them. I know you've talked a little bit about this, but I actually do want to know this. And I think I know the answer, but which one of your horses makes your life easier to deal with? Which one makes your life harder?
It's definitely Kelty. Kelty is just an angel, and even my husband says just she's the easiest horse I've ever had. She's so calm and she's so nice.
Do you think she'll look after Theo when he can start riding?
She is a bit of a weird personality, so I think that she really kind of likes me, but she's mildly, quietly passive aggressive. So she did break my toe once because she stood on my toe. And then wouldn't move off of it, and then slowly sort of tilted it and pushed backwards, and I heard a crunch. And that sort of, she can be a bit
That's psychopathic.
She can be a bit like that.
Can we just backtrack? The easiest horse I've ever had. What were the others like?
Kelty takes, yeah.
I was
Kelty's the nice one, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah, she's the lovely one. What's the one? I always forget the other
Mabel.
Mabel, yeah.
Honestly, Kelty is lovely. I think she was just sort of like, I don't really know you. I don't really want to move, and that's the end of that. I mean, I was telling Sophie the other day that I had a Welsh Section D. And he would assert his dominance over my friends by slowly pressing them against a wall. And they wouldn't know that they were in the horse press until it was too late. And I'd have to tell them.
That is amazing.
I'd have to tell them to push him off and not let him lean on them, because otherwise he would just smash them against a wall and they would just help, I'm stuck.
Someone help.
Yeah.
Again,
Got
this
images
fact
of
feels
this.
very close to home today.
Yeah, no, we're all. Why do we do this? Everybody, it's ridiculous. So we are actually at Cheryl's house now, and it's gorgeous. And she's got the yard out the back with the fields out the back of that, and it's all very lovely. But as you know, anybody that has their horses at home knows that you don't get a lot of help alongside it.
No.
And since I know you've been here for what, 6 years or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years now. Yeah.
Since you've been here, do you think, would you now choose to continue to have your horses at home forever? Or do you think you'd want to put them on livery?
I think where I live is really interesting. So I live in the middle of nowhere, but we do have sort of like 20 houses in the middle of nowhere in like this little plot. And because of the history of where we live, a lot of the people have horses. And so I feel like I'm just on this massive livery yard where I just sort of, I have my own space, I can do my own thing. But like, I know my friend is over the corner. She is a vet physio. I've got another neighbour, and she's great. Like, she runs the livery yard over there. I've got a race trainer next to me, and if anything ever really went wrong, I could go to him.
Yeah.
So I feel.
You've got me down the road.
I've got you. I've got you last. Yeah. Last.
No, it's true. Actually, it does feel like that. It's a community, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite nice. Actually.
This is maybe like, I don't know, maybe I'm showing my shortcomings here of non-livery yard enjoyment.
Yeah.
But does it also feel a bit like everyone's watching you a little bit, like when you do your own thing, or is everyone just involved in their own stuff?
What, here?
Yeah.
I don't think so that much.
You don't feel
Amazing.
that livery pressure.
No, not
you would
at
on
all.
it, yeah.
No. I mean, I was really lucky. Before I moved here, I was probably at the best livery I'd ever been at, and it was a cooperative livery yard. It was called Lollipop Livery, and they had a lady that did the yard duties Monday to Friday in the morning. Would bring all the horses in, then turn them all out. But then we would be on a rota every evening. So one of us every evening would go up and check the horses, and then on a weekend we would all bring all the horses in. We would have like a rota day where we'd bring them all in and then put them all out on these certain days. So it felt, I think because you always had to handle somebody else's horse, it like removed a lot of that, like, this is my stuff, this is your stuff.
Yeah,
and everybody was nice. I mean, you'd always, occasionally you'd have like a little falling out, but it was never that big, not like at livery yards normally. And everybody was actually really friendly, and we all seemed quite common personalities, so somehow it just worked. Yeah,
That's really nice.
I think you have to be a certain type of person to let other people who have varying sort of levels of degrees with handling horses handle your horse and be all right with it. So,
and you also have to have,
I know
like,
people that would not be all right about that.
you have to have the right sort of horses in that situation as well, because actually if you've got ones that are very particular, I'm thinking about one of your liveries, so if you had just randos, other livery owners coming to like look at that particular horse, that would totally mess up his routine and he'd be so stressed, right?
I think they were definitely on a routine. So they'd come in at like 9 and go out at 1, and then they'd be checked in the evening. So the horses will all come down to the gate and they'll all know. And then they pretty much, like, if you we never did, but like open the gate, they'd take themselves to their own stables. But
really?
Yeah, I think it was just like,
I think, yeah.
I used to do that at home with my mares.
I think a lot of, with my horses, it would be that people don't particularly want to handle great big mixed race horses and thoroughbreds and stuff. And I think that would be the issue more than the horses. I think the horses would probably be all right.
I must admit, like, there was a couple of ex-show jumpers, so they were like 18 hands, and I did, with their heavyweight rugs, look at them and go, like, why do I have to put this on?
You can stay in that rug overnight. Yeah, I couldn't do that now.
And then
stay on my back. Yeah, I'm looking for like a 13-hander.
That's exactly
what I need. Yeah. No. If anyone knows any, let me know. So go on, you go the next bit, Katie.
So here, I'm interested because I'm currently considering bringing my boy back home. What does your daily management of them look like? And Sophie tells me that you're back at work as well. So
usually I'll bring them in at lunchtime, in my lunch, and then I leave them in until about 7 or 8 at night, and then I put them back out again.
So do you go back out there and Theo's in bed?
Yeah, so I put him to bed, and then at 7 when he goes to bed, I'll run out, and like last night, I exercised them last night. Occasionally I'll do something like if I've managed to kind of got out of work before it gets sort of dark, I'll then go up and do something like before he comes home from nursery. But yeah, usually it will be at night or on the weekends or whatever. I try to on a Friday, because I've gone back to work, but I only work 4 days. So on a Friday, I just sort of pray he'll go to sleep, and then I'll go out and ride.
Please
Please sleep. And it makes you frustrated. I don't know about you, but I get really frustrated if they don't sleep. I'm like,
Yes.
I've got so much to do, and you need
Just-
to sleep. Just go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you, Ollie.
Yeah. And I should clarify, he's not left here alone.
No, while you ride.
My
No.
husband works from home, and so he takes the monitor, and if he wakes up, then it's all right. Obviously, if my husband's got a meeting, I can't go out, but I just walk around looking quite grumpy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what, like, do you have sort of like Mike jobs and Cheryl jobs, or with Theo, or do you like split things pretty evenly?
Mike is very, very good. So we split things quite evenly. Maybe Mike does a bit.
Mike does a bit more.
I think he does at the minute, just because my mum usually has Theo 2 days a week, and he goes to nursery 2 days a week, and my mum's not been very well, so Mike has been looking after Theo a bit more than well, I'm at work. Like, his work is a bit more flexible, so
Yeah.
Because you're in the office as well as Sundays as well.
Yeah. Some days I'm in the office, or just my office. But yeah, my work is more full on. Like, I'm there, and I have to mentally be there. Whereas Mike can sort of step away a bit more. So
I wonder if he'd agree with that though.
oh yeah, he'd say he does it all.
I cannot just step away.
No.
I am the parent.
Yeah. No, but that is a bit like Alex. I know he's not at home, but once he leaves his job, which is riding with the horses, he's left there.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't really have to worry about it. Whereas
Feel like
for us, you can't really just leave it at work.
No.
Can you? You're constantly on the think.
On the think.
On the think.
Yeah.
On the think.
And on the blink.
Yeah.
I'm constantly on the blink of a breakdown. On the brink.
Definitely on the brink.
And what's Theo like as a child? Like, is he I hate the term, an easy child, or is he like quite quiet, or is he particular, or like what's he like as a person?
He's not, like, by definition, his personality is not a difficult child, but he had a lot of problems when he was born. So he was born technically, well, I think it was 37 weeks. He was brought early because he stopped growing. And then when he was born, he was tiny. He was on the 0.4 percentile, I think. And he had really bad reflux. So from sort of 2 weeks, he had awful reflux. So he couldn't be put down, really, because you put him down and he would sort of arch his back. He'd grunt and he wouldn't sleep. And so literally, I moved in with my mum and dad, who live around the corner, thankfully, because me and Mike needed to kind of go on a bit of a rota. So I would sort of have him most of the day. And sort of hold him. Then my mum would have him from like 5 till 11. I'd then have him from 11 through until 5 in the morning, and then Mike would come around at 5 in the morning and then have him, because literally we were holding him upright most of the time. And I think most people like kind of think when they're going to have their baby, they're going to go out and have coffee with their NCT mums, or their kid's going to sleep all the time. I know my husband thought that, it'd be fine, I'll get loads of stuff done, he's going to sleep. But the reality was you actually couldn't put him down because he didn't sleep. He would just scream and cry.
Yeah, be so upset.
Yeah, and you could see he was unhappy.
For that reason. There's a reason.
Yeah.
There was a reason for it, wasn't there?
That's really like, wow, that's heavy for like anyone, let alone when you've literally just given birth as well.
Yeah. And I had a C-section, so technically you shouldn't really be.
You shouldn't be holding him.
But
the whole time anyway. But you didn't have a choice.
Like, what do you do?
Yeah. And he was like that for a long time, but he was definitely bad for 4 months. And he would sleep for an hour, be awake for an hour, sleep for an hour, be awake for an hour. So I don't actually know. I remember saying...
I don't know how you got through it.
I don't know either. I just remember being in bed most of the day, because basically I was constantly trying to catch up with sleep, or any sleep.
Yeah.
Which is good though. It's probably how you did get through it, by actually
and
sleeping
also
when you could.
Also trying to relax as well, because there's no point which you're relaxing, because you're constantly like concerned about your child and his comfort and his safety. Whereas, people like us, where we didn't have such, the issue in the newborn stage, you could just put them down and go, hope for the best.
I know a lot of people hate me for saying this, but I actually loved that newborn. phase. Like I had terrible anxiety, didn't I? But
So loved it, yeah.
but I did actually. I liked it when I was at home and with her, and not worrying about something like her being stolen by an eagle and it's dropped into a river 10 miles away. So that's the sort of thing I worried about.
You're so special, Sophie Conway.
No,
so special.
But yeah, I enjoyed that newborn phase, and I think I know a lot of people that were in your position that have struggled so much because you're exhausted. You've been through you've had an operation basically, and then you've got to. And they can't tell you what's wrong with them as well. So you have to try and work it out.
Yeah.
Didn't you go back to hospital like 10 times in 1 week or something?
Yeah, he had really bad reflux, and then we also found out that he had a hernia. So he kept sort of going very, very white, going very still, and then like projectile vomiting, kind of at least 2 or 3 meters, and then like he would just go limp, and it was really freaky and really, really horrible to sort of see. So we ended up taking him to the hospital, and then you're in A&E for sort of 5-6 hours, because then he'd sort of, when we didn't know obviously, but when he had a hernia, it would obviously, his stomach would come out of the hole, and at that point that's why he was being sick. You take him down to the hospital and then it would go back in, but we didn't know it was out, so then they couldn't see that anything was wrong with him. But we were like, well, he's literally just been grey, he's been lifeless, he has projectile vomited, and now he looks fine, and we know that he looks fine, but
he wasn't fine.
And so then they're like, go back home. The first time he went in, they did put him on antibiotics for a while, but then
it wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah, it wouldn't have done anything.
No, exactly, because we didn't know what it was. So we stayed in over a weekend, and you don't get to sleep in the hospital, and then the baby's waking up.
Terrible. What a night.
So, but we went back about four times running up to Christmas, I think. And basically, in the end, they finally found out what it was, because he then had one of the episodes when he was in hospital, thankfully, because otherwise we were just like, what is this? And then they then didn't want to treat it for a long time because they wanted him to be bigger, which is fair enough. But at the same time, it felt like you were just on this because they were sort of saying, well, if it comes out and stays out and is strangulated, then like that could rupture his stomach or his So you're just
like organ damage.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be, that is just terrifying. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just felt like I was on like a bombshell that I couldn't relax with at all, and so I don't feel like I properly could get to love him or
enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy that period.
Oh, I hate that. Is my literally least favourite phrase when someone says, how are you enjoying motherhood? And that is the moment where, I know for you it's baby brain, but for me, the enjoyment, I'm like,
very triggered by
that really,
it's not safe.
Well, the enjoyment bit makes me feel triggered, like I should be loving this more when you're knee deep in shit, or you've got crying from 9 till 9, and for you, obviously, how can you even get to anywhere near enjoyment when you are so worried
and tired
I've never been that exhausted. They finally did send us to get him operated on, but that was at like 3:00 one morning. They sent us down to Bristol, and then they were going to send us back, so that was, I don't know, we got there at 5:00, having been in on sort of 6 in the evening, and then they finally sort of sent Mike away because they said only one person could stay, but he had been awake for about 24 hours at that point, and I was really worried about him travelling back. He went and tried to get a hotel, he couldn't get a hotel there, so he...
Has this been you were in Bristol?
Yeah. So I was just really worried about him and worried about Theo, and so that was stressful.
Was that when he bought you the pink leggings?
Yes.
That you would never wear?
Yeah. So because we weren't expecting to be admitted or sent down to Bristol at the time, because we'd just been sent away so many times. And I said to Mike, I've got no clothes, no nothing. So I sent Mike shopping for me. I'll never do that again. And he come back with these like skin-coloured leggings that were just awful. Massive oversized jumper. And I'm thankful for this oversized jumper because it hid the leggings. And it was just the worst pajamas ever. Like awful grey pyjamas that I literally wanted to burn. So I felt so self-conscious, as well as, like, you feel self-conscious when you've just had a child anyway.
But you don't feel like yourself.
And then your husband goes and buys you these random stuff that you're just like, Anyway.
Really showing your sexy side.
It's just awful. We were just trying to sit there talking to doctors, thinking like,
what do I look like?
yeah.
Oh, so bless you. So when did you say he had his operation?
He was, I think, 4 months old.
And as soon as he had that, did you have any complications from the surgery, or was it a good, like, an immediate kind of fix for you guys?
He had, annoyingly, the reflux had just sort of started to get a bit better before he went in, and then it got worse again. So again, we got back to the point where we couldn't put him in the car seat, we couldn't go anywhere because he was just. You couldn't put him in a car seat, you couldn't put him in a pram. You literally had to hold him, otherwise he would be crying and upset. But by 5 months he was all right, and I was able then to start having a normal life and actually going out and seeing people like Sophie or other friends with kids. So
when you have a baby, everyone says, oh, you've got to get out and about, you've got to make sure that you like are socializing, and people are like really worried that you're going to become a hermit or whatever. But when you physically can't go out, I guess there's also some sort of cabin fever that must be setting in at some point, surely.
Yeah, I think so. I always wanted a spring baby, and I think actually I was quite grateful that he wasn't. So he was born in October, and it just meant, I'd open up the windows and it would be miserable outside, and actually I didn't really want to go outside, so I didn't really feel like I was missing out, whereas I think if it was summertime I might have felt it. But I think when you were saying that, it made me just think of something, which is quite a lot of people said to us, oh, why don't you just bring him down, or why don't you just come out and see us? And I don't think that I don't think people really knew, I'm not talking about Sophie, but some other friends, I don't think that they really knew what we were going through at all. And the fact that I literally couldn't put him in the car seat without him kind of, I can't remember the word for it, there's something which is where they start just bringing up milk. It's not being sick, but it's just like bringing up milk, and then they like choke on their own sort of bringing it up. And that's what he would do whenever we put him in the car seat. So if I put him in a car seat, I'd constantly be worried, and I'd sort of see him arching his back and bringing it up. And I think that they thought that we were just
being overprotective or something.
Yeah, we had lost a child before, and so I think that they thought I was a bit of like one of those mums that were just like a hypochondriac mum or something. It was being
maybe
really
you had everybody just kind of assumed you had really bad anxiety because of it. Actually,
and I don't
actually it was
what it was,
warranted,
as bad as it was.
And even if it had been not warranted and you were just overprotective and anxious about it, so what?
Yeah,
there was nothing wrong with Olive, and I was like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I didn't want to go out. And so the fact that you were in that position with Theo and you did manage to get out like a few times, that must have just felt like such a major win as well.
But also it like must have like delayed that sort of feeling of like confidence as well, like when you're going out and about and willingness that you want to do stuff.
Yeah.
Did you feel a bit trapped at home, kind of?
I think there were times when I just thought I'm not able to do stuff with the horses, or I'm not really riding. And I was really lucky because my mum is close, and then Mike understood that I hadn't, because of our previous loss, I hadn't really ridden a lot during my pregnancy because I didn't want to risk anything happening. And so I think he knew that I need that for my time. And so he would occasionally sort of look after Theo and let me go out and just groom the horses or whatever. So that was good. And I think I'm quite just a mind over matter. I'll just go and do something. So even though I was knackered, I'd never had a baby before, so I never really knew anything different. So I just got up and just went out, even though I was knackered. And because I didn't have to go to work, I didn't mentally have to think. And I think a lot of us were in the same situation, that our kids weren't sleeping. Okay, mine might have been really not
slightly
sleeping.
worse.
But I was just like, okay, none of them are sleeping. So if we all just go out and we just stare into space, it's all right. If I'm all right, I'm all right. So
and go out and cry. It's okay.
Yeah.
During obviously the first 5 months, it sounds like were just super turbulent. How do you even think about your horses at that point? Like, what are they doing in all of this? Were your mum doing that?
Escaping and getting really fat.
When I know you mentioned about the baby that you lost, and how did you move on from that? And did the horses help you to recover?
Yeah, so I don't think you ever fully move on from that, if I'm really, really honest.
Can you, if you want to, you can explain what happens. It wasn't a normal miscarriage, which, no miscarriages. We are not saying that any miscarriage is easy to get through, but this was quite late on, wasn't it?
Yeah, so my daughter that I lost her at 21 weeks, and she had Patau syndrome, which is it's a chromosome issue. So it's kind of similar to Edwards or Down syndrome, but it's I don't know that worse is the right word, but the lower down the chromosome number you go, so like Downs is the highest chromosome number, I can't remember, I think it's like 21, and then it's like 18, and I think Patau might be 13, but I think it is 13. The lower down the chromosome number you get, the more severe the issues come, which is why sort of lots of people with Down syndromes, they can live a relatively, or if not normal, life and also live a normal lifespan, whereas Patau is really quite severe, and the kind of lifespan prognosis is, I think it's 4 to 12 hours, something like that. I had all of the screening when I was pregnant, but it all come back low, and so
it came back as low
risk
risk
on the 12-week scan, and it was when I went back for the 21-week scan that she was diagnosed with having Patau syndrome, and we had to go in for lots of testing, and she had a lot of issues, so yeah, it was really, really tough, but yeah.
Well, how is that? Is that quite rare for it to come out as low when?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's rare. I don't know fully. I mean, I did have my 12-week scan quite early. I ended up having it at 10 weeks, and I know at that stage, I think the difference between 10 weeks and 12 weeks can make a big difference, and I don't know whether because it was 10 weeks actually.
The screening stuff.
Yeah, I don't know whether because it was done at 10 weeks, they couldn't see some of the things that potentially they might have seen at 12 weeks. I mean, obviously they do it in that window, and I'm not medical, so I couldn't say. But just speaking to, we had a private screening test for Theo just because I wanted to make
of course. I was going to ask that actually about Theo. If you did things differently because of the previous loss of the little girl.
Yeah, we did. We went through private screening for that. So we did NIP testing, which is non-invasive. Is it non-invasive paternity testing? I don't know, something like that. And that's where they can test a bit of the DNA. There doesn't have to be any kind of amniotic fluid taken or anything like that. It's just a blood test through you, and then just a more in-depth screening test or scan that they do at 12 weeks. But yeah.
Did they do that for you on the NHS because of the previous history?
It wasn't.
Did you have to pay for it?
Yeah, I had to pay for that. And to be fair, we could have paid for it with the first one, and we did discuss it with me and Mike discussed it. And the only reason why we said we didn't want to do it is just because the original screening come back as low, and we said if it come back as medium or high, we would definitely go and do the NIP testing.
Yeah.
But because it didn't.
It was. Sorry. Olive's stolen an apple. She needs her friend Theo to wake up.
She does.
Something that I wanted to talk to you about is because I lost my mum 5 years ago, and actually, weirdly at the time, I after I lost my mum, I couldn't get on a horse. And I did ride, but I kept falling off. I just completely lost the ability to ride.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, after you'd suffered that horrific loss, and it's not just a loss, it's a loss of it's not just a loss of, because I don't know how to describe miscarriage, because I've never actually properly had a very, very early miscarriage. And loss, it's not a miscarriage, is it? Really?
Yeah.
It's just you have to go through a really tough grieving process, and I just wanted to ask you about how the horses helped you through that, and if they helped you, or if you struggled like I did with them afterwards.
Yeah, I think I did struggle with them afterwards. Actually,
did you?
Yeah.
What, getting back on, or confidence, or?
I think, again, that happened in winter. And it's not, I mean, I think maybe it's a bit of like when it's summertime, I love riding. I'm not a particularly fair weather rider. I will, again, mind over matter. I'll go out there all weather.
Oh, I am 100% a fair weather rider.
But
I still do it.
I love it, exactly. But I love it more in the summertime.
Yeah.
And I think when you feel miserable inside and you just want to like curl up in a ball and cry, you don't necessarily want to ride. But I did remember going out and doing a lot of poo picking.
Yeah,
because
actually, that's really good.
Yeah.
Poo picking is a really good therapy.
It is. And I just remember going out into the field and poo picking a lot and like
Thinking.
staring up into the sky quite a lot. And just thinking.
Yeah.
I like being around them. I didn't necessarily want to go and ride. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You have to be in quite a good place yourself to ride. And I didn't really realise how grief can affect you physically.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that, but until my sister's going to absolutely kill me for saying this, but after Mum died, she got like she basically had diarrhea for like 3 months.
Oh, God.
It was all related to grief.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And then I just kept falling off my horse,
and
that was definitely grief related. And it's like you said, it takes a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just the kind of the adrenaline running through your body all the time. It's exhausting.
Could you have the pregnancy hormones in you still?
Yeah, I did, and I did start to kind of produce milk even at 21 weeks. So, and they say that you can. So, like what you have when your boobs swell, after you have a baby, and you go through that, like, what is it, the third day when they're like rocks,
and then and the cluster, when it comes in, the milk, doesn't it?
Yeah. I had all of that, and that
you did give birth.
Yeah.
And that's your body doesn't know what's happened.
No, exactly.
You just do in your mind, which is just actually, you are unbelievably strong.
Thank you.
And the fact that you had the courage to get through another pregnancy, because
I made scared a woman on a plane because we were coming back from Amsterdam.
Was this pregnant with Theo?
Yes, I was pregnant with Theo, and we were coming back from Amsterdam, and we were supposed to go to that NIP scanning, and it was fine because like the flight back was going to be in the morning. We were then going to travel through to Oxford from Heathrow, have lunch at a pub, then go and see her because it was, I don't know, it was booked for the afternoon, for like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. The flight got delayed. Then the plane that we were on, I think that was delayed whilst we were on it. So we were sat on the plane for like 2 hours, and I was sat next to a woman, and I was crying, I was shaking, I was like, I want to get off.
Because you didn't want to miss it.
I did not want to miss it because I'd been waiting those 12 weeks to get a scan to make sure everything was all right, because I could not let go that it wasn't going to be all right.
The thing is, again, everybody's terrified anyway.
They are, yeah.
And so the fact that had already happened, and I bet you didn't really want to believe anything until, or like get excited about anything until you'd heard.
No, I didn't. And even after I had heard it, I don't think I really, the night that because Theo ended up being a cesarean because firstly he was transverse. Yeah, you do remember.
I remember. I was with that. So just for everyone's benefit, I was at NCT with Cheryl. We were in the breastfeeding clinic, weren't we? And we were talking about when we were due to the person that was holding it. Cheryl just turned around and said, "Oh, I'm having a C-section on Friday." We were like, "Pardon? I'm not due yet." It was a real shock to you, I can imagine, more than anyone else.
I think you guys all said that we were really calm, but I think we were totally in shock.
You were calm. But you did look quite shell-shocked.
I think I was.
Sorry. Especially now I know you better.
Yeah, I was very shell-shocked.
Now I know you're a lot better. You did look like a deer caught in the headlights.
I was. But I do remember the night before I went in, everyone was sort of saying, "Oh, are you excited?" And I remember I laid in the bath and I cried for hours and hours, just because I just kept filling up the bath with hot water. Because I didn't want, because although I wanted it so bad.
You wanted Theo?
I did. I wanted Theo, and I really wanted to be a mum. But it suddenly hit me how much my life was going to change, and I wasn't going to be able to ride, or I wasn't going to be able to ride in the same way, and I cried for hours.
I could cry just listening to that.
That actually really reminds me of you.
Yeah, I was just like that. I was just like that. And I was saying to someone this week, it was a bit like I was seeing obstacles instead of opportunities.
Yeah.
And what should have been like one of the happiest times for me, I actually was just seeing as a massive restriction.
Yeah.
And that was like a real mental brain fart.
But until you have the baby, you can't see that love and how much all the benefits you get from having a baby.
As Olive eats your finger off.
you do just see the obstacles, and I can see that totally. I can see how you mourn your former life at lots of different points throughout either pregnancy or when they're here, or actually as they get older and you realise that they're never going anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
I think I mourned it that night, and then I haven't mourned it since. I think because you don't know what you don't know, for one, and you can't prepare yourself. But my mum was a childminder, so I'd seen sort of roughly like what it's like to have a kid, although you can't experience that until you've got your own. But I always say to people that don't have children, it is hard work, and you do have to shift your life, and it is changed. But there's a side to it that is just so beautiful, and that side does generally outweigh. Yeah. You can't explain that to somebody.
You can't explain that to somebody unless they've had a baby themselves.
I'm not sure everyone feels that either, just thinking about it. I don't feel that.
Do you know, I feel really awful when people say stuff like that, because I'm like, do I feel like it's beautiful, or am I very practical and pragmatic in the fact that I have created life and he is lovely and I wouldn't swap him, nor change him, nor return him.
Yeah.
But in my very rudimentary way, would I describe it as beautiful? I don't know whether I would.
No,
I would.
I know you would.
Yeah.
I'm a bit poetic though, aren't I?
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that.
I'm like a poet though.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have said that. In fact, of both of us, it would definitely be me that is more poetic. You banana. So you say it was only like one night that you felt like that.
Yeah.
That's a quick turnaround, Cheryl.
Yeah. No. Usually once I make a decision, it takes me a long time to make a decision, and then once I've made it, I just then move forward. And I think, although, I don't know, I don't feel quite the same. Like I had made the decision to have him, obviously, and I really, really wanted him. I felt such a hole from the loss that we had. And even with having him, I never wanted to replace him, but there is, when you lose a child, you do immediately, some people, I personally wanted to get pregnant really fast, straight
Did
after.
you? I was going to ask you that,
I did.
Actually. So do you think that is a replacement, or do you think that's to get over your own grief, or?
I think it's both. I think I wanted her back. And so my thought was, if I was pregnant again, that would bring her back. I then had Asherman syndrome.
Okay.
I'm dead.
I then had Asherman syndrome, which I don't even know that you
What's
knew that
that?
I had.
I don't know.
What's that?
Asherman syndrome is having scarring of the womb.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that, actually. I think you did tell me that.
So and I couldn't conceive, but I knew something was wrong because my periods weren't quite right after I had went through what I did. They weren't quite right. And I went to the doctors, and they said, well, as long as you are having periods, it's fine. But I was like,
I don't think doctors know anything about periods. I'm just going to put it out there.
yeah,
Just put it out there.
yeah. Well, and Asherman syndrome is it's not that well known either. So I had Patau, and then I had Asherman syndrome. Like, I think I feel like the queen of Google to Google all these random things. But I then had to go in and have an operation to have the scarring removed, and then I fell pregnant the month after I was told we were allowed to try for a child again.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Considering what you'd been through.
Yeah.
Your body was like, yes.
Yeah, you must have been ready.
Yeah.
Your body knew you were ready.
Yeah.
Theo
And
was ready to come in.
I'm sort of glad that I had that year, because I think as much as that year wasn't great, and I went to counselling pretty much as soon as I went through the loss, but I think I didn't actually kind of go through the emotions until afterwards. I remember being at work one day and like trying to buy things and I'm not like a buyer, I'm not somebody that goes and buys things just for the sake of it, but I was trying to buy things to get over it. I remember buying a candle that was like a Chasing Rainbows candle, all about loss, and I bought something else that was about loss, and I don't know, it was weird. I just remember feeling very, very sad. So I wanted that time I needed that time mentally, I think, to get past what we had gone through and to be in a better space, I think.
It sounds like your body knew exactly what you needed.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Probably.
And
you
had that time.
Things too much.
Yeah, and actually just let stuff happen, which it did.
Can I ask a question about grief? Because I don't think anybody knows what it's like to really experience that.
Not many people.
No, not many people. I mean, obviously we all lose things, but losing a child is possibly the worst sort of grief.
When you were out, I was talking to Cheryl about grief and how I coped with losing my mum. But the one thing that actually always got me through that was that I know that my mum would have chosen to go over losing any of her kids.
Yeah.
And I would now.
Yeah.
I would cry. I would choose to die rather than anything happen to Olive.
Yeah.
You know, so it is something that hopefully, touch wood, none of us will ever have to experience, and Cheryl won't have to experience again. But
I think my question around grief was, somebody once kind of explained that to me as like feeling very empty, I guess. But actually part of that is like, if you imagine a ball in a box, I don't know whether you've heard that particular one, but time making the ball get bigger. And I just think it's rubbish. I think there's nothing that can really prepare you for that feeling. And if you were to describe how grief felt to you, how would you describe it in your own words?
So I think I've got a couple of things. So the first thing on it is what I heard about child loss is, with the loss of like an adult, so like your mum, you have in your brain, so I am, or I was, I didn't say this at the start, I was at the time a change manager. And so a lot of that actually I deal with looking at the Kubler-Ross graph of change, which is actually about death and grief, about how people cope, how people cope with change and with death and loss. That's what it was based on. So I knew the stages that I was going through at the time, so I was like able to map myself out. And what I was told about death is, when it's around somebody that you know, your brain has actually created neural pathways around you and the way that you live with them and the way that you are with them. And when they die, you actually have to create a new neural pathway that they're not there anymore. That's the thing. So like, you have to learn that they're not there because you expect them to be, and you know, then they're not. Or like, you phone them, you would turn to phone them in a certain situation, or you would do something and they would be there, and now they're not. And like, you have to relearn. So like, your brain has to go through
I had to change my entire life. After my mum died. That was my only way of coping with it. Yeah.
Whereas with a baby, especially in the situation that I was in, you didn't have that. You weren't used to living with them. You didn't have anything with them. But what you had is, you had this mental
image
thing, and or so, like, you created this life for them about all these milestones that they were going to make, and every time you hit a milestone, their birthday or when they would have gone to school, you're reminded about that and you're taken back. And I don't think I've fully answered your question, but it felt like there's all this stuff that should have happened. And really sadly, my friend was also pregnant, and we both announced that we were pregnant at the same time, at the same sort of party with our friend. And she was due 2 weeks later than I was. And she also, I heard, well, I didn't know what she was having at the time. And I obviously found out when we went through all that we did, that we were having a girl. And I was really hopeful that she was not having a girl. And she announced that she was having a girl. And so this girl that she had, this baby daughter, was like my baby daughter.
It should have been.
Yeah. And so every time, like, it took me a long time to be able to go and see them. Or we did actually have something on her first birthday. It was a genuine, like, we couldn't go, but I think I would have found it too hard. I couldn't go to her baby shower. Just that not it should have been my. I was never like, oh, that should be my baby, you shouldn't have. It was never like that.
It's not. It's just so hard.
I should be doing this too. This should have been me too.
And it's not that you resent her. But it's not fair. Like at the same time, sometimes it's just it's just not fair, and you feel like and
also you wouldn't want to turn up for your friend and not turn up. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. You want to be there for the right way, and it's different now when I see her. I really love her daughter. She's really, really sweet. But there is sometimes in the back of my head when I sort of think my daughter would have been her age. She would be doing roughly that. And I desperately wanted a daughter, mainly because I desperately wanted somebody that would ride with me. And I kind of think, like computer games.
He might.
Yeah, he does love the horses.
He's really. I think actually Theo will grow up to be quite a good rider because he's very calm. He's quite calm. He's quite like, isn't he? And he'll be a calming influence on horses. I'm not sure that Olive will be.
Listeners, the eyeballs looking at Olive right now,
causing some sort of chaos. I think that's one of the most interesting things I've ever actually heard anybody talk about grief.
Being really very candid with you and our listeners, we were just so worried about chatting to you, not because we wanted, we didn't want to talk about this topic, but because it is so sensitive and it's so individual, and we wanted to be compassionate in how we were talking about the subject, and because this is life for you, and it's life for so many of the people that we are speaking to and for, and it's tough. It's really, really, really tough. Thank you.
I watched a podcast a while ago. You've probably seen it. It was with Mylene Class.
Oh yeah, what was she in?
Mylene Class was in what band?
What band?
It's on the tip of my tongue. It begins with H, I think.
Hey.
Or was H in it?
Yeah. What's
No, she wasn't in S Club, and she wasn't in Steps.
No.
What was she in?
Oh gosh.
What was she
This is hilarious.
Yeah, but
This is hilarious. I've got to have to Google this. I need to know.
I can see her bandmates actually. Anyway, so I watched a podcast with Mylene Class, and I think it was that Mother Pucker I follow on Instagram. She's amazing.
Guys, hearsay.
I told you the other day. Didn't I?
Well done, you.
Yeah. So
you shut her down pretty quick.
Yeah, that was H. I was going to call it high class or something, but it wasn't high class.
High contrast.
So anyway, she was on a podcast and they were talking about miscarriage. This is different. I think it's very different for various reasons. But basically, when you have a miscarriage, I'm referencing their podcast, so if this is completely wrong,
don't shoot her down.
Don't sue me. Apparently, when you have a miscarriage, or when you're pregnant, you end up with the genes of your baby and their DNA in your body.
Yeah.
And so it makes me cry to talk about this, but even if that pregnancy doesn't happen, they are still there.
Yeah.
And they've still existed and they still exist.
Yeah.
And actually it's a really sad thing because they don't exist in real person.
Yeah.
But you kind of carry them around for the rest of your life. And I think it's really nice way of looking at it.
Yeah. No, you do.
She is nice. I love being a good dramatist. Cheryl, you said that you went to counselling over the loss of your daughter.
Yeah.
Did Mike, your husband?
No, he didn't. He did a lot of talking, and I think that's the one really nice thing about one really nice thing about our relationship is that we have been through some tough times, and when we get away, he tends to talk to me. He doesn't really talk about his problem. So his dad has been through issues before and suffered with cancer, and he didn't really tell anyone. That's just not who he is. He's not the funny thing to talk to him. He's not like a manly man. He's not like, oh, I can't talk about my problems, or I'm a man and I can't cry. We went to watch BFG, and he said, I'm going to take my daughter with me, joking about me taking me, being his daughter, to watch BFG. I turned around and he's crying. So, like, he will cry at anything. So
sometimes men will cry at the stuff that's easy to cry at, but bottle up the important stuff.
My dad, like, forces man. He cries, get this, at The Masked Singer. Nothing else. Nothing else.
It's the worst program. He's watching it.
Yeah,
I know. He's just like,
I don't watch it anymore.
Just, you know, the talent is just that. I'm like, what is
That's
wrong
a prime
with you?
example. Sometimes I think I'm a bit like that. Sometimes I found that with my dad that, well, actually, that's not true. I've never seen my dad cry once. That's another story. But I do think sometimes Alex is like this. He'll cry at like something that's on TV, but if something horrific happens, if it's real, they bottle it up a bit.
And he's like that, and that's the only time I've ever seen him cry, and I felt so awful. I mean, I felt awful about what happened, but I also felt awful. So we went to Oxford to get more testing once we'd had our initial screening to test and to see what was going on. And then when we got back from that, and it had obviously all been confirmed, he pulled up on the drive and he just cried. I've never seen him cry before. And yeah, it was horrible to see him cry because I just felt so sad for him and I wanted to sort of make it all right for him and I couldn't. So yeah, that was really, really hard.
I'm coughing, but I think it's because I'm trying not to cry. I'm sorry.
It's a really difficult subject, this, actually.
It is tough.
It's we spoke to somebody the other day about doing a podcast. She's actually really well known. She's pregnant, and she's got her own podcast, and she has been kind of wondering whether she should cover loss, miscarriage, loss of, problems, stillbirth, stuff like that. She knows a lot of people that have been through it, but because she's pregnant, she cannot talk about it, and I do not blame her in the slightest. I think we're all lucky enough now to be able to talk back, but we're not pregnant. We've got our babies, they're here, they're healthy, they're fine.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would expect people to talk about when they're vulnerable in that way now.
It's really triggering. And even
it is.
Even I mean, people get really upset about it, and people don't talk about it. I don't think they talk about it enough. I don't think people probably talk about death enough, really. To be honest.
They do not.
And so when
absolutely
it comes to it,
not.
We don't have those connections, and I didn't realise the number of people that had been through situations. Okay, not the same one, but similar situations, and yet when you start to have those issues, people then start to come out and sort of talk to you and say, "Oh, I've been through this," or "I've been through," and you never knew that, and you sort of think, if maybe people talked about it a bit more, then maybe we would be in a better place and we wouldn't feel so alone. Because, like you were saying, we feel empty. But funny enough, I was talking to somebody at work, and she ended up losing her child at the same time with the same thing, and it's so rare for it to happen.
That's
really, so to bump into somebody that went through exactly
it's meant to be, but almost needed to see each other.
We lost Simon's mum last year, and one of the we knew it was happening. She had a terminal cancer, and it was a long time burning, basically.
Yeah.
But when she was nearing end of life care, one of the things that I think we got passed by a friend or a family member was like a TED talk on loss, and how people nowadays aren't actually prepared for loss because you don't see it and it's not talked about. Like you just said.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things is, for like 50 years ago, or 60, 70, however many it was, people were used to seeing death in the home or death in like around them.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a taboo subject because it was a part of everyday life that people saw.
Yeah.
And nowadays, because we have healthcare and carers and end of life care and that sort of stuff in the like away from the home, people aren't used to seeing it, so it's almost
we don't have to confront it.
No, so it's actually more shocking in a way because
it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's more shocking, and it doesn't matter. I don't care what anybody says. It does not matter how much you prepare for death until you lose something or someone or somebody, anything that close to you. It still swipes you sideways.
Yeah,
like it will literally still knock you off your feet.
Yeah, when I can't say that I was well prepared for what we went through. When I was a teenager, I lost both of my horses within 6 months. My best friend and my granddad were within like a year. So I lost both of my horses within 6 months, and then my granddad and my best friend within the second half of that. And I just remember, like, I didn't go to college. I totally sort of flunked out of my college because I just couldn't. I was really depressed and like my whole world. So, you know, what we were just talking about were your horses, did they help you when you were, you know, going through what you were? When I went through what I did when I was a teenager, I guess what we were saying about the whole neural pathways, my whole life had been about my horses. I got up as a teenager and went to the horses, and then suddenly I didn't have any horses anymore. I couldn't see my friend because my best friend had died, and my family was grieving because my granddad died. And like literally my whole life had been turned upside down. And yeah, it just, like you say, you can't prepare for that. You don't know, and you literally do have to learn a new life without that person or without those people in your life. So
you change, I think, as
well.
You do hugely. All of these different things that happen to you throughout life, and these losses that you have, and the tragedy and everything else. I think it changes you as a person.
Yeah, I definitely felt, especially with the baby loss, I felt like I was walking on one path when I was going to have that baby, when I was going to have Matilda. And then when we lost her, I suddenly got shifted sort of to a different path, and I could never get that path back again.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because it's sort of like having a second child. It's like I'd already done some of this once.
Yeah.
And there should be this whole special thing about having this baby, but it wasn't. It was different. It was a totally different walk. I felt very different about the second one. And it's just like I couldn't ever switch back. So I could never relax on the second pregnancy. I could never feel settled. And even when we did have him, he wasn't then healthy and well. It was just like I could never switch back. And now I can never go back because those milestones I always miss. I see my friend's baby that was born at the same time. I hear other people who have lost their children, and it brings it back. So yeah, I can never switch back to that walk of life that I had before. So yeah,
it's unbelievably hard, but I've got to say I'm so glad Theo's here.
Yeah.
And he is Olive's little best friend, and he goes to nursery with her, and we go and do stuff together, and he is the cutest ever. And actually, in a way, I'm really glad that we've got, that it worked out.
Yeah.
I'm not glad you went through what you went through.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we've now got you in our life, and Olive's got Theo in her life, and so it is a different path, but it's a path.
Yeah.
It's a nice path.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Cheryl, we always end every episode with asking somebody a question.
Okay.
And I think the question for you has got to be different to what we would usually ask someone. But this has been such a thinker and such a feeler, and I think all of us have at one point had hair standing up and tears and coughing fits and all of the above. But what advice would you give to somebody that is going through a similar thing to what you've been through?
I would say see what's out there to support you. I did find lots of groups that were there. Reading a book, it was actually about miscarriages. I can't remember the name of it, but I can say it afterwards. And I just read it, and although the lady had been through a number of miscarriages, so it wasn't like my story at all, I just found a lot of kind of solace in that, and just reading that somebody else had been through loss was helpful to me. Just taking advice from other people and support. I do remember, I know people were being lovely. We got lots of flowers sent to us, and I just remember at one point just seeing flowers at the front door when we'd gone out for a walk, and just saying to my husband, I don't want to go in the door, there are flowers there. Didn't want flowers, I wanted a child.
Yeah.
No, no, that sounds awful.
Yeah. No, but it is. It's.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's so weird, Cheryl. When my mum had terminal cancer and she was dying and she knew she was, everyone sent her flowers.
Yeah.
And I remember her one day saying, "It looks like an effing funeral home in here, and I'm not going in."
Yeah.
It's like, it's so ungrateful, but equally,
Yeah.
What's the flowers gonna do?
what are they gonna? They're not gonna help me. Like, yeah, you haven't got a baby. You don't want flowers. I know.
Exactly.
I know. It's
But somebody bought us a box of food, one of the like HelloFresh, and actually like that was the nicest thing because we didn't want to cook. I do also remember I baked a cake. So like doing practical stuff that you like, you probably do that. So I baked a cake. I made purple icing on it. It looked awful. I sat and I ate most of it. It was just like, do you know what? Like, I know I've never eaten all that much cake because I feel so bad. But yeah, I was just like, this cake looks awful, but I'm just going to sit and I'm going to eat it and I'm sad.
So I've just got. I want to just finish saying something that made me cry loads when I first heard it. But it's so stupid. It's from Yellowstone, the show, and what's his name? Not Nicolas Cage.
Kenneth.
Huh?
Kenneth.
What's his name? No, oh my god, I'm being so
Who's
stupid.
Kenneth?
Who's the guy from The Bodyguard?
You had another Googling session too.
I've always fancied him.
Game of Stone. Game of Stone. Oh my
Game
God.
of Thrones.
That's
No, from The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston.
Oh, Whitney Houston. Oh, I don't.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, thank you. So in
It's
it,
close.
he talks about there is a girl there that lost her, but she was in a car accident. She had a crash, and the baby died. She survived it, but the baby died. And he said to her, and it's one of the nicest things I've ever heard about pregnancy loss, but he basically said to her that for that baby, they don't know any different to the perfect life.
Yeah.
Like, they had the perfect life, and you can't be sad for them. You can mourn for yourself, but they never had to suffer through anything. They just,
Yeah.
you know, they were okay. And I think it's quite sweet to think of it like that.
Oh, she could cry again. Cheryl, thank you so much for talking to us, and you are actually you are inspirational.
Thank you.
Thank you, I don't think I am, but
You are.
You absolutely are. You're strong. You are an inspiration. I hope to God that other people can take some strength from this, and that's the whole reason we are doing this. Something that we will do, which is not there yet, but we will put, if you could send us some links to that book and some areas where we can provide any support to anybody on our website, which is www.equestrianmumsclub.co.uk.
Correcto.
We will put anything up there that we think might be useful to anybody going through the same thing.
Yeah. That's it for now, listeners. We will see you on the very next episode. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode from the Equestrian Mums Club. It's been great to have you along for the ride. We've been your hosts, Katie Allen Clark and Sophie Conway. Make sure to hit the follow button to hear more from us as we dig deeper into the world of ponies and parenthood. And until next time, stay smiling, safe, and stay sane.